Hey gang, I'm in Iowa City, Iowa today, and we're going to be talking about black angels. In fact, I am at Oakland Cemetery here. This is just going to be our first stop to see a black angel, and then we are going to go a few hours to the west, to western Iowa, to talk about another black angel. I want to thank Deborah Baker from email for suggesting we come here, and also I think Jacqueline Hartman from Instagram may have mentioned this a while back, or the other angel. Nonetheless, we're going to be visiting the memorial and grave of the family of a woman that came from Bohemia by the first name of Teresa. So let's take a walk over there. This is a beautiful old cemetery, and look at some stones, and then have a look at this very, well, I'm going to say somewhat famous grave, especially if you are in the paranormal crew. It's gotten quite the notoriety. So Bohemia now, of course, is called the Czech Republic. And she came here, her full name at that point was Teresa Karasek, and it was in 1836 that she came here. She was a doctor, a practicing doctor, and she came here to Iowa City with her son, her young son, Eddie. Now, Eddie was a good boy, and he really had some goals. He wanted to become a doctor like his mom someday. She had inspired him. So he was working at the drugstore, but sadly, at the young age of 17, or it may have been 18, he died of meningitis. Now, Teresa was absolutely heartbroken when this happened, and she had him buried here right at Oakland Cemetery. And to honor him, she had a monument made of a tree stump, and we've seen these before, a tree stump with the axe, kind of signifying taken too early. May have even come from Woodmen of the World Association, who knows? But his life was definitely cut short. Now, a little while longer, Teresa needed to move away from here. It may have been her young son, the memories. It may have been for another reason, but she moved to Oregon, and this is where she had married her second husband. It may have been her third, but his name was Nicholas Felivert. And shortly thereafter, she married him. He also died. Very bad luck for Teresa. Well, she started to make plans to construct a monument for her family, and she had returned here to do that, and she brought her husband's ashes with her. And there ahead we see the massive bronze statue of the angel, which is mostly black. It's very interesting because usually the patina that we see as they age is more of a green color, yet this angel is black. And thus some of the superstition and legend has been created. It is massive. And looking from here, I'm going to tell you it's about 8 feet high. When they first had this statue commissioned, Teresa actually didn't like it. Don't know why. Look at that. And here we see Eddie's monument here that we were talking about. And I believe he's buried here also. You can read the inscription here. Just hit the pause button. Boy, this is just beautiful. You can see her. She is buried here with her husband. Now it's their ashes that are entombed within this block, or possibly underneath here on the ground. Not sure. It's a big slab. It's got to be 4.5 feet wide by maybe 9 feet long. She died when she was 88 years old, 1924. Yeah, this is quite remarkable. I'll step back so you can get a really good view of it. Now there's some terrible legends with this angel. Many different stories. It said that on the night of her funeral, there was a storm and lightning hit the statue, and that's why it's black. And there's many stories, but the big story, is do not touch her. Do not disrespect her, because if you do, you will die. And there are stories of people that have done this. They have done this very thing, and they suffered the wrath of the black angel. It is spooky. And I think a lot of it is because it's just so big. And we will say farewell to the Black Angel of Oakland Cemetery here in Iowa City, Iowa. And with that, we are going to head west to see the next Black Angel. So I'll turn it back on when I get there and spare you guys the long ride, all right? We have arrived, everybody. We are in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Way to the west, we're right on the Nebraska border, off the mighty Missouri River, right out there. And what a beautiful cemetery this is. It is amazing. A lot of old stones, very large cemetery. Fairview Cemetery is where we're at, and we're going to talk about another Black Angel that really, this is bigger for this town. This is as big as it gets. I think this town really cherishes the Black Angel that's here, that is in memory of Ruth Ann Brown Dodge. She married a famous guy, Granville Mellon Dodge, in 1854, and they both came out this way to Nebraska territory from Illinois. They came right by here. They kept going. You know, we're right on the border here. And then they backtracked and settled here on the Iowa side of the big Missouri River. Now, Grenville would go on to distinguish himself in the Civil War. He initially commanded the 4th Iowa Infantry, and he rose right up through the ranks. He went from captain to colonel to general. Now, when the war ended in '65, he came back here and he took up a position as a surveyor and then chief engineer of the Union Pacific Railroad. A few years later, He started his home here. It was on 3rd Street. He got that finished. And the family was growing. 3 daughters. Now let's talk about Ruth Ann. A little bit about her. She was very spunky. She could ride a horse and shoot. And of course, this was in an era when women, they didn't talk back, they deferred to the husbands. They didn't have matters of opinion. But she spoke her mind. She had once learned that a man severely beat his slave, the woman, and she really stepped up and castigated him. Wrote a letter, in fact, that said, "It's horrible and outrageous, and I would like to see him shot." Now, they did a lot of positive things here. Philanthropy, volunteer, as they were raising their 3 daughters, Letty, Eleanor, and Anne. Sadly, in July 1916, General Dodge died, and shortly thereafter, Mrs. Dodge, as what happens so much, the other half starts to wither away. She was 83 when she died. Shortly thereafter, her husband. But first she told one of her daughters a story that would become quite famous here and throughout the country. Before she died, she had this dream. She was standing on this rocky shoreline shrouded in mist, and an ancient boat emerged out of the fog. In the bow of the boat, there protruded a beautiful woman, like those wood carvings you see, on the prow of the boat. Those haunting statues that would give life to the ships. She had guessed it was an angel, and the angel was holding a small bowl overflowing with water, and she said, "Drink. I bring you both promise and a blessing." And she chose not to drink. She said she wasn't ready for it, not ready for the supreme blessing. She felt unworthy and presumptuous. But then the angel returned again, and she didn't drink. And then a third time, and then the third time she finally drank. She took a sip. She drank the water. And she said that she had been transformed into a new and glorious spiritual being. She felt like it gave her immortality, her daughter would later say. But Mrs. Dodge died shortly after that, September of 1916. So the following year, Ella and Anne, 2 of the sisters, commissioned a celebrated sculptor named Daniel Chester French to immortalize their mother's vision in bronze. That was dedicated here in 1920. And there it is, right over there. Now that sculptor was the same sculptor who did the memorial for Abraham Lincoln that we see in the Capitol at the end of the pond. That very famous, amazing statue of Abraham Lincoln, the Lincoln Memorial. And what he said that this statue was his best work. It was his best. He said he remembered it the rest of his life, and that it affected him the most. Maybe it was because it was haunting, but maybe just the story behind it. And here it is. And let me tell you, it is amazing. It is breathtaking to look at. You can see the bowl inspired from the dream. You can see the prow of the boat where the angel is standing. Now, Ruth Ann is not buried here, nor is the general. They're at another cemetery nearby. But let us read. Let me try and at least capture the inscription. To the blessed memory of our beloved mother, Ruth Ann Dodge. She was born May 23rd, 1833, died September 4th, 1916. This memorial fountain is lovingly dedicated by her two daughters, Ella and Ann. Her children rise up and call her blessed, which is a proverb 31:2. There are some more prayers over here. Boy, look at this. Look at the workmanship. It's unbelievable. Well, of course, there's lots of legends about this statue of this beautiful woman. Haunting. But they say that if you look into her eyes, that's the worst thing you can do. Obviously not to disrespect her, but if you look in her eyes, within a short time, some stated 2 weeks, you die. So we're going to look in her eyes, at least with the camera. If you're superstitious, don't watch this. And if you are bold, then you can watch. Well, I'm not going to go up there and look at her eyes, so I'm hoping that means that I'm safe. But I'm probably pushing the limits. Pushing the limits of decorum. Well, it's a beautiful piece of art. It's famous. So glad I made the long drive. And we just hope the family is resting in peace. Ruth Ann Dodge from Council Bluffs, Iowa. Good night, everybody.